What's up guys, CJ here and welcome back to another all-new Game of Thrones review, this time for Season 7, Episode 4, The Spoils of War. Honestly, right from the top, this was probably my favorite episode of this season so far. I mean, it had everything. Some long-awaited reunions, the best action of the new season, development on key storylines, and some great callbacks to former seasons as well. But for more, let's get into a quick recap. In Winterfell, Bran's undergoing a ton of changes, and not the puberty kind. I mean, he essentially isn't Bran anymore. He is to his former self what, say, John Osterman is to Dr. Manhattan. A former self, just that, kind of lost in his own omniscience. The season of reunions also continues as Arya's now made her way back home too, and now 3 of the Stark kids are back at Winterfell. Her and Sansa bond over wishing they killed Joffrey, and there's some tension between Arya, Bran, and Littlefinger, but for the most part it's a sweet part of this episode. Speaking of, and one of the sweetest moments of the season thus far, Brienne watches as Arya and Sansa wheel Bran in from the Godswood, having, in a roundabout way, kind of kept her vow to Catelyn Stark, but as she notes, having done very little directly to bring that about, but kept it all the same. Meanwhile, in the south, Jon and Daenerys discover a secret Dragonglass cave under Dragonstone, containing a secret history of the Children of the Forest's war with man against the forces of the Night's King. But what goes from being Jon's best sales pitch to join forces becomes Daenerys's, as she makes a pretty convincing case for Jon bending the knee, of course directly followed by the crushing news about what happened last week at King's Landing. Jaime, fresh off the siege of Highgarden, has secured more food for winter, and Cersei's squared the Lannister debt with the Iron Bank thanks to the gold from Highgarden, only to get back in bed with them for another venture. But Bronn and Jaime's forces are struck by Daenerys and the Dothraki, who attack the Lannisters as we finally get to see a dragon in action on the open field, and we have to take a minute to pour one out for all of the crispy Lannister foot soldiers. And honestly, this was maybe one of my favorite sequences of the entire series, with Bronn just running through the battlefield to get to the Scorpion just to try to take out the dragon. I mean, it really puts you in the heat of the battle, no pun intended, and what those soldiers must have been going through. I mean, it's kind of a hard thing to imagine, but this scene kind of put you in their shoes, or as well as it ever could. In the end, the Lannister forces are defeated, but Bronn manages to save Jaime's life, with the two diving into a river to avoid some dragon fire. But, of course, Jaime's wearing pretty heavy plate armor, so he's sinking like a rock to his possible death. And honestly, this might be in my top 5 favorite episodes of the entire series. It's definitely the best of the new season so far, all while actually being the shortest of Season 7, if you can believe it. It's got everything you look for in Game of Thrones. I mean, the political intrigue, developments in many of the key plot lines, from Arya's list to the war against the Night's King, and even to Bran's killer in Season 1, and more crazy callbacks, like Bran dropping that little chaos as a ladder reference to Littlefinger, which goes way back to Season 3 in a line Littlefinger says to Varys. It was also great to see Bronn return in a major way in this episode, and I think I speak for a lot of fans out there when I say thank God he did not die. I mean, I was literally holding my breath through that entire final few minutes. Speaking of those final few minutes, not only is that the best action of the new season, it's a perfectly timed response to a lot of fans who felt like after last week's episode, those sieges of Highgarden and Casterly Rock were really a letdown, kind of cheap. They should have been major battles, as they would have in the books, I think a lot of people were saying. But not only was that battle scene really well executed and beautifully shot, it also kind of served to answer one of the series' most interesting Chekhov's gun type plot points, just how effective this Scorpion would be against a dragon. And in short, it's not dragon kryptonite, it'll wound the great beast, but even a pretty good hit as we saw in this episode won't kill one or even really bring it down. Pivoting away from that and back to an earlier scene, the relationship between Daenerys and Jon is another one that I think we're going to have to watch closely, as I can't be the only one that felt like the scene in the Dragonglass cave was a little tense and not in the way Game of Thrones is usually tense. I mean, it might have just been the torchlight, but it seems like there's something there, despite the issue of them being not too distantly related. Heading into next week, Jaime's status is a major question, and it'll be interesting to see how a frustrated Daenerys reacts after winning her first decisive victory in the Seven Kingdoms. Will she be more lenient with Jon or less? And I guess we're gonna have to wait and find out next week. Overall, I'll give this episode a 9.5 out of 10. The shortest episode of the season was the sweetest, and with only 3 left this season, we're staring down the barrel of at least 2 more super-sized 80-minute long ones in that bunch. So let me know what you thought of the episode in the comment section down below, but that's going to do it for me here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash that like if you like what you saw, subscribe for more great content every single day, and consider turning on your notifications to be alerted every time we upload a new video. Signing off, this is CJ, and I'll see you next time.